Hello and welcome. This is the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. Now, my guests today are the founders of the Brixton Soup Kitchen, Solomon Smith and Mohammed Hashi, two South Londoners on a mission to help people in need. From a kitchen serving free meals, they've gone on to open food and clothes banks and have transformed lives. And it all started in Brixton. Now, Solomon, you've talked about, welcome to the show, first of all, guys.
Thank you.
Solomon, you've talked about the whole idea about putting smiles on people's faces, this whole idea about making this a very heartfelt exercise. Tell us a little bit about, is that the magic? Is that the secret sauce?
Most def, it's just like, when a lot of people see homeless people, the first thing they see is, they say a tramp on the streets. So when they come into the soup kitchen, our first thing is what can we do to change people's perception of them and also to change their perception of themselves.
But you see this as being a desperate plight for people. You see this as smiles. Is that what do you think this is what makes you different from some of the other charities and organisations in this area?
Most def, because, a lot of the other charities, not dissing the other charities, but for us, we use food as a facilitator. There's a lot more what needs to be done, not just, giving food and making them go on their way.
And Mohammed, you've said it comes from the heart. So tell us a little bit about why that is the case.
Again, for us, this was not a business for us. This was not a venture of any sort. It was simply trying to solve a problem that we saw. And we initially thought it was food as the solution. But now we see food as the facilitator of engagement with people that find it hard to engage with anyone because of their circumstances.
Right. So touch on about actually the day job, about actually what does the Brixton Soup Kitchen actually do?
So we provide a warm, safe environment for people who have traditionally been, kicked out of local communities, kicked out of their support networks, and we invite people to come and find themselves again, build relationships, get friendships, in a nice, warm, friendly environment with food, with clothes, with internet access. Really, it's about giving them their family back.
And it started with food, but it's gone on to many other things. Tell us a bit about how it all began, though, in terms of how did you get the idea that food might be the Kickstarter for the whole thing?
I think it began in 2012 when on the news, this was like one of the coldest winters we had, and we actually lost 6 homeless people in the whole of the UK on that day. And it just put a spark on our heads. It was just saying they would have still been alive if they had warm food, warm clothes. So we said, it's a no-brainer. Let's just contact people for warm food and warm clothes, and let's just hit the streets. And it literally started off like that.
And so it's a big problem, and then you think, I can solve it.
Yeah,
I could be a big part of that solution.
Yeah. We didn't want to go on Facebook and complain. We said, instead of being the complainers, let's just be the doers.
And when you're dealing with a situation which is about tough issues day in, day out, how do you maintain optimism? How do you maintain, if you like, that belief that you can do it, that you can make the difference?
Do you know, it's so easy because every time you speak to someone new and they're going through an issue, we actually see the transformation right in front of our eyes. And every single day, that's like the fuel for the work, because you're seeing physically the difference that you're making to someone's life. You're seeing the change in their attitude, and you're seeing how much more they value themselves.
Right. Now, you're famous for your food. I mean, and I understand something. It's your mum that gave you the recipes at the beginning. What was the first dish?
The first dish had to be, she called it the Brixton jerk sauce.
The Brixton jerk, right, okay, so give us the vital ingredients.
So from there we have, brown sugar. We've got a lot of secret ingredients we can't really give. But, brown sugar, mango, just a lot of things what can kind of keep your belly warm for quite some time. Yeah. So that was one of the main dishes what we was always serving our dishes with. So we said make sure we've got the jerk sauce to go on everything.
And you keep it fresh, right? You change the recipe every day.
Oh, yeah. Every single day. We're even surprised by what's being cooked.
Yeah.
And so that's literally how it is. You walk in and you don't know what's happening. It's like, let's have oxtail today. Have we got any oxtail? No, let's go and buy some. And it just moves like that.
But if we go back to your own childhood, when if you like, a lot of people were saying you can't do it. I mean, you Solomon, at school, people were giving up on you, right? In terms of being dyslexic. I mean, pick up the story.
I remember being in primary school, and like, all of my friends were just, getting down and day when it's coming down to work, and me and my twin brother was just like that. What's going on? we physically could not comprehend what was going on. And we always were seen as, you know, the disruptive kids, the bad kids. But then the teachers never really understood what we was actually going through, you know. And it's not until I was going home, I used to get in a lot of trouble.
Did you feel at that point that, I mean, how optimistic did you feel about your life chances?
When I left school at 16 with no GCSEs. I actually, you know, a lot of people say I got kicked out at year 10. I stayed throughout, and I literally left school with no GCSEs. So from then, I was like, I might as well just, you know, go out stealing. Because I had nothing else. I felt from then I was a failure.
And Mohammed, I mean, you got shot in a gang fight, right?
Yeah, well, breaking up a fight, yeah, with young people. And that for me was an eye-opener, because, you know, you never think, you see it on the news all the time, you never think it's going to happen to you. But unfortunately, yeah, I was a victim of a shooting.
So what is the trigger that sort of gets you to think, actually, I'm in this situation, I'm going to do something with my life that's going to take it to another place? What gets you going?
For me, it's just reminding myself that there are people that look up to you, and you may not see them, but they're looking to your actions as motivation for their actions. And for me, I feel like that's a big responsibility, especially when you've got a platform that we've got.
Yeah.
So you have got a platform. You started it in 2013, and it has become a really well-known platform.
Yeah.
I mean, you've only got to go on Twitter to see how excited people get about it. I mean, has technology been a friend in terms of spreading the word for
Yeah,
this?
social media has been very friendly to us. You know, I remember when we first used to put things on Facebook, the response used to be amazing. And so then we was like, let's open up an Instagram. Open up an Instagram, we gained 10,000 followers in a couple of months. Oh, let's open up a Twitter.
And who are they? Who are the followers? Are they people that get involved?
We get a lot of secret people following us. So I remember when we was doing some stuff with ITV, they said we've been following you guys for a year. It was like, whoa, we did it.
I mean, you've got some famous followers as well. I mean, you've got Joanna Lumley, who bought you your first van, I understand.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She is absolutely amazing. She actually come down, she called us from her home, and she was just like, I'm being seen the work you guys been doing. What do you need? Out of the blue, we just said, we need a van. And she
delivered.
She delivered.
And tell us about that van, because it's a pretty unique van.
Yes.
I mean, I understand it's parked outside.
Yeah, it is parked outside. So what we've done is, because there's so much strife within the different communities in London, what we decided to do is drive around London and get all the different communities to sign the van so they can all exist in one place in harmony.
I mean, it's a great story of growth as well, right?
Yeah.
You know, you've got so many people involved, and yet you're holding down other jobs, other interests.
Yeah.
How do you make it all work? How do you cope with the pressure of having something? You mentioned the word, Mohammed, responsibility. People now expect great things from the Brixton Soup Kitchen. How do you make sure you don't disappoint?
Do you know, we came from adversity, you know. As Solomon said, he had the issues of being dyslexic. I went to a school, we had 5 head teachers in 5 years. 7 of us got 5 A to C's out of 240. So this is actually the easy part, you know. This is what we do naturally. It's good work, it keeps us warm inside, and it keeps a smile on our face.
Do you think of yourself as having a kind of entrepreneurial spirit as part of this? I mean, does that mean something to you?
Most def, you know, because I think having been very kind of a doer from early, having the skills to kind of see something, create something, make something happen, make people look in and want to also invest their time in, automatically made us, you know, it gave us that spirit.
So you can bring a kind of business mindset into a social cause.
Do you know why I think we've got an entrepreneurial spirit is because we literally were making it up as we went along. We had to be dynamic and change our ethos, change what we was doing and how we was doing it in order to fit into the world that moves so fast around us. And for me, that's the learning that we got and the learning that we share every day.
And you're going around the world right now talking to other cities about actually your learnings. When they think of London, when they think about this city as a place, do they see it as a city of solutions or a city of problems?
They see us as a city made out of gold. And when I go over there, so we done some work in Miami and Toronto, they were absolutely confused when I was telling them the crime rate. A lot of people's not in work. They couldn't believe it. So I think what they see on their TV about us.
So they've got a more optimistic view than the reality.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And do you find that you get a lot of interesting answers as well when you look at other cities in terms of the initiatives that they're working with?
100%. There's a severe lack of answers actually, and that for us is quite shocking because we thought we were struggling here. You know, struggling. We've never got any funding before, you know, etc. And we thought we were struggling, but we're seeing people going through the problems we was going through when we first started, and these are developed countries.
Yeah.
Now, it's time for a short break. Now, we've been talking about the early days, what it took to get you started. When we come back, we're going to talk about the future and the future for London. We'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back. This is the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. My guests today are Brixton Soup Kitchen founders Solomon Smith and Mohammed Hashi. Now, before the break, we were talking about your startup journey, but you're working on a really big problem, homelessness. Mohammed, give us a sense of just how big a problem this is for London today.
So in our original borough, the borough we originate from, we have approximately 310,000 residents. And the council has accepted over 27% of them as living on the poverty line or just under it, which is 83,700 people. Now the traditional problem with homelessness is the definition. So a lot of people see homelessness as rough sleeping. They don't take into account partial homelessness and sofa surfing.
So explain a couple of those terms for us. So sofa surfing, what does that mean?
So sofa surfing is someone who doesn't have a set address and has to sleep at a number of different locations over a few nights. And partial homelessness is where the benefits are being paid directly, but they have little or no money left over to survive.
Do you get a sense, Solomon, that the city is listening or the city is actually acting on this?
It's quite funny. We get, at the Soup Kitchen, we have corporate Thursdays. So we get a lot of corporates coming in on a Thursday. And our main question is, do you guys witness homelessness? They say no. But then once they finish the Soup Kitchen and they'll contact us back, they're saying, yeah, on my road, there's a lot of homelessness. And I think it's a big problem because I think a lot of people in London just walk past people who's actually on the streets.
And ignore it.
And basically just ignore it. But I believe in everyone's phone book, at least 6% of people in your phone book are suffering.
How many? At least
6%.
6%. So you think that? So is that pervasive an issue? And
it definitely is, because it's about identifying it, and people have a lot of pride. So when someone's going through a hard time, it's very difficult for them to get support because they're afraid of the perception that causes within their peers. And that is something that we've been trying to break down at the Soup Kitchen.
So when you talk about a corporate Thursday, what's happening on that day?
We get them to firstly identify, work with homeless people. People firstly think homeless people just want food. A lot of the time they just want conversation. Right.
And are these typically big companies? Well, what sort of businesses are coming to see you?
We get Nickelodeon, MTV, Greggs, Citibank, Marks and Spencer's. You know, we get quite, our phone book always the time about coming in on Thursdays. You know, we've got RBS coming this Thursday. It's just crazy. And they are all none the wiser of what's kind of
And how committed are these businesses when they come and see you?
The thing is, I think they're really committed, if I'm honest with you. It is just that we are, I think, one of the few companies that actually tell them how to get involved. You know, I think a lot of companies and a lot of charities, they don't articulate that. They don't say to companies, this is what we want from you. What they say is, can you help us? And when you say something like that to a big corporate, it just goes under the radar.
But do you see that those businesses that come to see you, are they the exception, or do you think increasingly businesses see that social problems are something that they should be involved with?
I think they needed someone like the Soup Kitchen, a local charity, a local small charity, to just put the sparks in people's minds.
And is it turning up and money, or is there more to it than that?
There's more to it. For me, it is about getting involved. It's about actually having a platform and a space to actually have a conversation with someone who is homeless or someone who is going through those issues, because it personalizes the issue rather than it just being a statistic that you see all the time on TV. You met someone who was going through home. You met someone who sleeps rough in the streets of London, in 2017. It's crazy.
And give us a sense of that reaction in terms of these people that come in and they actually work with you. I mean, they're turning up as employees, I guess, but how do they leave you? What's that?
They always leave with a wow. Always. They're like, I did not know this is what's going on under my nose.
And they always come back individually. So outside of their work, they come back. We have them bursting into tears and hugging people. And it's really
it's an emotional experience.
Really emotional.
Yeah.
And if you were to sort of, think about that emotional experience and people who you want to hear that, if this was the mayor or the prime minister, I mean, what should they be thinking about in this world where it is two private individuals that have got hold of an issue and are helping to sort it, rather than the government itself?
It's interesting that you say that, because we had contact from Sadiq Khan, who wants to visit the soup kitchen, because for us it's about, if we can personalise this issue to the Mayor of London, I feel like that is one of the biggest obstacles that you take out of it, because you can no longer ignore the problem because it's actually affecting live, living people.
And you've never taken any grant money at all. This has all been private sector raised. So, could government get involved?
Our main thing is if we do make government get involved, if they can still allow us to do what we're doing. Because I think when we first initially started, the reason why we kind of didn't take certain government grants is because then there was kind of controlling what we was doing. So they were saying, if you guys are from Brixton, you only can work with people from Brixton. Our ethos is working from absolutely anyone.
And you've taken it to Brighton,
Brighton, Birmingham, Miami, Toronto, Glasgow. We go absolutely everywhere where there's homelessness. Our main thing is not to conquer world homelessness, but what can we do to put the spark in people's minds, so hopefully in 10 years, things are starting.
Now, all of this from two guys who've said that your idea of success is actually closing the Brixton Soup Kitchen, actually 100%. The sense of mission accomplished. What are the factors that get you to that point in terms of where you actually say, we've done it?
Again, for us, it's about, number one, as Solomon said, sparking that something in everyone. To say, you don't have to be part of the soup kitchen to give someone food or give someone clothes. If everyone looks after each other, we won't need places like the soup kitchen. It's just about being given and knowing how to give, which is very simple.
And you two have been on an intense journey together. What have you learned about yourselves in this sort of whole adventure, if you will, in terms of actually growing the Brixton Soup Kitchen?
For me, it was like just learning you don't have to, you could be dyslexic and still succeed. And that's why now I tend to go around to a lot of schools, colleges, and just talks, and just kind of just helping a lot of people who's dyslexic and they feel like they're a failure.
I mean, you've both been awarded honorary doctorates, you've had awards galore. I mean, how do you keep it real? How do you keep a sense of who you are and what you're in it for, Mohammed?
I think it's really important to remember that you're inspiring a next generation, and it's important to keep your feet grounded for their benefit. We don't want to pretend and say this has been an easy ride, or that we're even near the conclusion of it. This is a problem that we want to be in terms of solutions. We want solutions to continue to be developed, be innovative. Homelessness is just one of a few issues that we deal with. We deal with mental health issues, we deal with domestic violence, we deal with a whole host of things, but we don't keep it to ourselves. We get support from other organisations who are specialists in this, and it's about that togetherness. We're about bringing the community together to solve the community issues.
I mean, and you're a great double act. I mean, you're very likeable, but I'd imagine behind the scenes, how much pressure is there in keeping the show on the road?
So much pressure. Yeah. Every other day we're thinking, are we going to have to close? Even coming to here to have this conversation with you, we were really apprehensive. We had to wait until we closed the soup kitchen to rush over here. And that is always issues, because everyone has to pay bills. Everyone has other responsibilities, and that is the balance that we've kind of perfected over the years.
So in terms of keeping that show on the road, what are the biggest problems that you found, Solomon, in terms of growing it?
I would say the biggest problems since the day we started till today is funding and financial support.
Funding and financial support. And how do you do that? I mean, is that just a question of getting out on the road and meeting people?
We literally just have to get out on the road, network. And we tend to we're lucky now where we get a lot of people giving us donations via product. but we sometimes can't pay the bills with practice.
And how close have you come to closing, do you think?
Do you need to about 40 times, and it's literally, again, even in terms of the finances, we get really good volunteers that have to move on because they need to pay bills and they need to feed their families. And for us, that churn of staff, what you get is that you find the burden is literally on you, literally. And that is so tiring.
Does it leave you with any regrets in terms of, if you had your time again with this, what would you do differently?
I don't think I'll do anything differently, because I think, for us doing the whole charity thing, we've kind of linked up with other charities and they're also struggling with funding. So we thought it was just us. We're thinking, is there something what we're doing wrong? However, even though this is a big passion of ours, it does come where reality does hit and says, you need to pay your bills. You need, the amount of red letters we've got because our passion is this, and we're sometimes thinking we might need to go and work.
So that's the day job. You're going to have a run for mayor, I hear.
100%. 2024, I'm going for it.
2024. Guys, long may the adventure continue. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Capital Conversation. Absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, that's it for another edition of the Capital Conversation, and a big thank you to my guests this week, Solomon Smith and Mohammed Hashi of the Brixton Soup Kitchen. And if you've been inspired by this story of hope, hard work and making the difference, join me again for the Capital Conversation.